Hey guys, welcome to JasonWhiskyWise, and myself, Jason, bringing you whiskey review number 61, where today we're going to review another whiskey from Bartels Whisky, which is going to be a Highland Laird Glentauchers, 1996, aged 20-year-old whiskey from Glentauchers, and it's a cask number 7301. Now these Bartels Whisky, they do single cask, cask strength, natural colour, non-chill filtered whiskies, and this one is a new product which should be released in the upcoming few weeks or month, because I got this sample and I've just done the Arran. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link here at the end of the video. I've done the Malts of Scotland Dalmore, and then I've got this one and another one which I picked up as well in terms of doing the reviews, because I tried this one and I was like, wow, I was like, you guys have to do this one soon. So I've got the sample over here. Now, if you don't know about Bartels Whisky, they are an independent bottler, as I said, and they run under the name of Highland Laird, which is their sort of bottling name for their whiskies. Now, in terms of the age of this whiskey, it is a 20-year-old whiskey. I believe it's being bottled as we speak, so 2017 is the bottling date. In terms of the ABV, it is at 53.2% ABV, but on the nose, you'll definitely, as I'll mention, feel a little bit stronger. Now, in terms of the cask selection, you can see from the light colour and appearance that this one is a bourbon hogshead cask, and it doesn't mention it here, but I did send them a tweet. Straight away, they got back to me and told me bourbon hogshead. Now, the distillery is from the Glentauchers distillery, which I believe is in Speyside, which you'll see over here, the Glentauchers distillery. Bottler is from Highland Laird, and a parent company of Bartels, and amazing people over there. Such a nice independent company, family run. Now, in terms of the region itself, it's from Speyside, Scotland, which you can see over here. And on the price point of view, it has to be confirmed. It's to be confirmed. So I don't know the price. It could be, if it's like the Arran, you're looking at around about 125 to 140. So I'm thinking it's around 120 to 130. I'm going to say 130 in my personal, what I think it could be, but I'm not too sure. So I'll leave an adjustment on my blog, which you guys can check out in the link in the description, where I've already done a write-up on this whiskey. Now, in terms of exclusivity, yes, it is exclusive. This is very exclusive. I was told it's 143 bottles globally, which is very minimal. But then again, it's not a big cask. This is a sort of smaller cask they're using for this one. In terms of caramel colouring, no caramel colour is added, so this is all natural colour in this whiskey. Now, I'm going to leave a few pictures over here so you can see exactly how the new label looks, because they've rebranded it. They used to produce these nice tubes and really vintagey looking labels. Now they're changing it, make it a bit more vibrant. It has all the information on there as well, so you don't have to go and do so much research. It's all given for you. I think it's superb stuff. So anyway, we'll start with the assessment of the colour. I'm going to hold that up for you guys there. It is very light in colour. I'm going to go with I was going to say maybe a bright gold, but maybe even a straw. Let's go with a pale strawy note on that one. So it looks quite light. So anyway, we'll move first into assessing the nose. So into the nose. So to start on the nose with this whiskey, you're getting those classic bourbon cask characteristics, but it's more of a creamy vanilla on this one. A little bit of a citrusy lemon zing that just goes through, then more towards like lemon juice. But you are getting a little bit of ABV burn just on the nose, so I think it does need a little bit more time. I have left it in the glass for a little period, but one of the sayings is, every year in the cask is a minute in the glass. So 20 years should be 20 minutes, but I don't want to leave it too long, as I did that on the written review. A little bit of what reminds me of red pears, quite ripe, and then a little bit of conferencey pears as well, but more ripe, so almost coming to the end of their sort of age. And it's got a nice sweeter floral note just on the end of honeysuckle, just sort of rounding out the character, as if they're sort of the fruitier notes combined with the sweeter notes really coming together very well. Really nice whiskey all in all on the nose. So next move into the palate. So into the palate. So to begin on the first initial impression on the palate, it does start out a little bit of spice. You're getting that peppery spice, minus the ABV. Peppery, white peppery spice, followed by a very citrusy lime juice. Now, it's completely different from the nose, which I was thinking lemon juice. It's more lime juice with a bit of the zest in it, which is actually quite refreshing. And it's got sort of a soft peachy note as well, which reminds me, which actually develops and becomes quite velvety on the palate. You are getting a sort of soft honeyed barley note right behind that, which sort of rounds it all off, but it sort of keeps going. So I'm going to have a second sip and see what other notes we can pick out. So, second tasting. So from the second tasting, I'm picking out, again, that sort of honeyed barley note. I'm put that down there, I'm fidgeting with it quite a bit. But yeah, a little bit of those red pears coming back through, quite refreshing again. A little bit of those apples. Again, green apples. I'm not thinking any red apples, this is all green apples. And I'm getting a slight oaky presence of sort of balsa wood just on the end. I've been doing a lot of DIY work, so thinking a lot of these oaky characters, but the richness through the cask is really giving itself through onto the palate. So next we're going to move into the finish, and we'll come to my final conclusion. So into the finish. So into the finish for this whiskey, it does sort of completely change from the spicy aspect from the introduction of the palate, but then as you work your way into the finish of this whiskey, you find those sweeter, fruitier notes. And as I was mentioning with apples before, this is sort of not fully cooked apples, but just par cooked. So they've got that softness, but at the same time they're juicy, succulent. It reminds me actually a bit of an apple crumble, but the base is sort of like a juicy, sweet base to it, with the apples stewed very well. Really sort of all caramelizing together with a little burst of vanilla, a dash of spice. Really, really enjoyable on the finish of this whiskey. And it's just sort of lingering around ever so slightly. That sort of oaky presence from the palate completely faded away, and you just got sweeter notes and a nice sort of big handful of icing sugar just drizzled all over the top of it. Just really getting a nice sweeter now notes coming through. Really fantastic. That finish is, wow, it's like having a liquid dessert. That's how I'm going to describe it. But anyway, let's give my rating for this whiskey. And I'm going to give it what we classify as a 90 out of 100. Reason behind that is because this whiskey is just, wow, it's like a liquid dessert, the way I described it in my last sentence. Really nice vanilla presence on that one. Nice sort of lots of apples, pears, burst of spice. The way I'd actually describe this whiskey, if I had to say in one word for each sort of part as it goes through, start with a spicy aspect, then you work your way into a sort of a citrusy note. Then it develops ever so slightly, becomes a little bit more creamy, then it makes way for that fruity presence. And then you get the sweeter notes coming through at the back at the end on the finish of this whiskey, and a little bit of a oaky, woody presence as well, but more back to the sort of sweeter, fruitier presence. So it sort of works its way through different parts on this whiskey. It's very unique in that sort of sense, and a reason I'm giving it 90 out of 100 as well is I don't know the price, so I can't, you know, put a finger on it and say this is the exact price, this is how much it's worth. So I'm going to give it a 90 out of 100. If I knew the price, if it's under 100, this rating would probably go up. If it's above 150, that's going to go down. That will just decide on what I personally feel on this whiskey, because I don't feel it's worth 150 plus, but then again, I do feel it has got some fantastic qualities about it, and it just reminds me of a very old Altmore. Not super old, but if you guys have seen my Altmore 21 review, it reminds me of a very similar characteristic in that. Really nice, and sort of like a desserty sort of character, those apple crumble. So on that note, do I think would I add water to this whiskey? Personally, I wouldn't add water to this whiskey. I think it's just good enough. If you find the ABV a bit too pungent, then you can. Would it need time? Yes, it definitely needs time to open up. More on the nose than on the palate. And in terms of also, time, water, value for money, I think I've covered everything in that one. So anyway, let me know what you guys think as soon as this one's out. Let me know if you've tried it. So I'll leave the video over here for I believe that will be the Arran 20, Malta Scotland over here. And check out my subscribe button over here. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. As always, this has been JasonWhiskyWise, and I'll catch you all for the next video review.